Yeah, I mean, it's been over a decade now since you started SwiftType and joined Elastic. Like, if you could go back and tell young Matt and young Quinn, like, here, these are the three things you need to remember as you go forward. Like, what would you say?
That's a hard question, actually. I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I might give answers that might you might not expect. But one thing that I think we learned very quickly. So obviously, like you mentioned, Quinn and I are both software engineers by trade. So we started the company because we build software together, and I think it is important, even early in a company, to really figure out your go-to-market strategy and think about that. And so with two software and very product-focused founders, your inclination is to think that you can solve all problems with more product or better product. And so we did that for a while, and I think it took us maybe longer than we wanted to realize that the other half of the company is also incredibly important to build in the same way that you build your product and engineering team. And so once we really started to focus energy on that, we that's when the company really started to grow. We started to build revenue and things like that. But that stuff doesn't just happen because you have a really well built product. You have to really put a lot of energy into doing that. So we learned that probably slower than I would have liked. I also learned a lot about just operating efficiency inside of a company and how important that can be. If you can really think about your operations and the way that you run the company and the way that you do things like finance and planning and reporting, and getting that as clean as possible early on. It's really hard to do that once the company's really going, right? Once you have a lot of customers and once you have a lot of things going on, layering on operational excellence is much harder later. And we tried to do that obviously as much as we could. But I think if we were to go back, or if I were to go back and do this again, I think that would be one of my bigger focal points in the early days, is to just get that stuff as well planned out as I could when it's still easy, because then you're building on a kind of a better foundation. And every company I know, and my friends who run startups, I think everybody struggles with this because it's just not the thing you think about when all you're doing is trying to get your product built and get your first customers, and you're emailing people and you're talking to every customer who signs up, and so you're just doing anything and everything to get it going. That wasn't my focus, but that's one of the things when I look back that I wish I'd known to just spend more time on, And it's not necessarily that complicated. It's just a area to put your energy, I guess.
Well, it's kind of a catch-22 as well, because like you could argue that if you spend your time there and not on other things that are going to make the company successful, then it doesn't matter, right? And I think that's one of those psychology things you have to constantly battle is, am I doing this for a future that may never come? And should I be spending my time somewhere else, right?
I totally get it. I think that is hard, and then that's the question. And I think hopefully you're lucky and you get a good co-founder who you can have a good relationship with. But I think co-founder relationships are oftentimes hard. And when I talk to my friends who have startups, who are, whether they've worked or not, I think every startup has a lot of back and forth between the founders. It's a relationship that's hard to maintain. So I think we did well. So I don't know that I would do that very differently, but I think that just making sure you're focused on those are all the important bits for me.